Welcome back to Combat X with Alan Dawson, your weekly show on Roku, Prime Video, Fubo and YouTube, where we talk boxing, we talk mixed martial arts, and we talk all the weird and wonderful things that make these sports as great as they are. Joining me today is a former lightweight and super lightweight boxer, a boxing promoter and a key figure in Michigan, New York boxing and now Puerto Rican boxing. This is Combat X, Dmitry Salita. Welcome to the show, Dmitry. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me on.
You're always a fascinating guy to talk to, Dmitry. We want to get stuck into Ukraine boxing, your relationship with Javon Sugar Hill Stewart, the heavyweight picture, because I know you're such a big player there too. But let's start with your journey in general. You're one of the few people to parlay a fighting career into a fight promotional career alongside really only Oscar De La Hoya and Bernard Hopkins. What kind of perspective do you think that gives you when, you know, people like Eddie Hearn, Al Heyman and Bob Arum, they don't have that background?
I think it gives me a very unique experience and a very unique perspective. And starting out my journey in Stereo City Boxing Club in Brooklyn, New York, and going through the amateur ranks, turning professional, fighting on the Bob Arum, Lou DiBella, scoring, Golden Boy, then being the first promoter to work with Matchroom in the United States before they did a deal with DAZN or HBO, really gave me a very unique perspective. And as a promoter, I started from the bottom, as they say, from club show levels. But as a fighter, I was exposed, to the biggest events in the sport at that time. I fought on many pay-per-views and HBO events and Showtime events, and being with Bob Arum and Top Ring as my first promoter really gave me a great education to what I'm doing now. So I'm very grateful for those experiences, and great to see fighters in the sport. So great to see Oscar doing his thing and others as well. The difference is that I wasn't as big of a star as Oscar was. I've been to the mountaintop and I've seen the promised land, but I didn't live there like Oscar did. So when he started his company, he obviously had a lot of leverage and started at the top with having dates on HBO and on different broadcasters, different sponsors, because he was a celebrity and he's one of the greatest fighters that ever lived. So my journey, even though I boxed, I obviously wasn't as good as Oscar and didn't have the same benefits of being such a star. So, however, I feel that being a fighter and experiencing many of the very detailed and nuanced situations that a fighter goes through gives me a very unique perspective, and also starting from the bottom in a way and really being involved in every aspect of the promotion, from putting up chairs to getting insurance to matching fights, to dealing with commission, to finding the ring builder. I mean, in every which way, really gave me a very good perspective and a very good knowledge base, and I'm very grateful to have grown to this level, and I love the sport of boxing, and I really believe that this is part of the beginning of one of the more significant companies in the sport.
You're like the Swiss Army knife of boxing. You can do everything. You can put out the chairs, but you can put on club shows, you can put on big shows. You got the, you've been around and you've done a bit of everything.
Yes, I cannot ring announce. and if someone falls out, I'm in so shape, but maybe I'll step in if it's very important. But yes, it gives me a very good perspective. Now that we've progressed, obviously, since we started, it gives me an idea of who to hire, things to look for when things go wrong. Gives me an understanding of how to troubleshoot, who to call, what to do, and it's phenomenal. And I think it's very important. Boxing is also a business, and we've seen a lot of very smart and wealthy people come into the sport, like 50 Cent, Jay-Z, and others. And I feel that people that get into the sport of boxing, I feel that you have to know the details of the business. And coming from where I come from, really gave me an ability to know the details of the business, every step up. So I'm very grateful for that experience, and I believe that most importantly, it'll help me deliver a better product to the fans and to the fighters we represent.
And let's talk about this product on October the 18th in Puerto Rico. This is an island synonymous with boxing historically because of guys like Felix Trinidad, Miguel Cotto. But there's probably no better time to return to the island than now with Jake Paul. He's got a base there. Edgar Berlanga did better than expected recently against Saul Alvarez on September the 14th. What made you want to take big-time boxing to the Coca-Cola Music Hall on October the 18th?
So, I love doing big things. I love doing historic things, and I love doing things that are about boxing. And similar to Michigan, the island of Puerto Rico has been one of the hotbeds and capitals of boxing, producing some of the greatest fighters in the sport. And I feel that in several decades or so, it's been neglected. We haven't really had premier talent from the island of Puerto Rico. I mean, Berlanga, who actually happens to be from Swerve City Boxing Club, which is where I came from. But we haven't seen native Puerto Ricans like Cotto and like Trinidad, as you mentioned, really kind of overtake the boxing fans' imagination. And it's very important because Puerto Rican fans are very passionate. And also when you have a good Puerto Rican fighter, you also engage the Mexican fan base because there's always that rivalry. So I really believe that there's a lot of diamonds in the rough to be discovered. And the Coca-Cola Arena is the premier arena in San Juan. They never had boxing before. And I'm very excited about this opportunity, working with very good partners in the Rivera brothers in Puerto Rico, who had Miguel Cotto early in their career. So yeah, looking forward to this first event on October 18th, and also looking forward to consistency and discovering the next talent and superstar in island Puerto Rico.
What can you tell us about the main event that you've got there with Joshua James and Trevor Thompson?
So Joshua Pagan is really an incredible talent. He's only 10-0. He's 4-5 undefeated fighters, and he's fighting another undefeated fighter on October 18th. You rarely see young fighters who had good amateur careers challenge themselves early in their career. In his last fight, he fought a really incredible fight, which is available on our YouTube channel. It was on Big Time Boxing USA, the co-main event. He won WBC America's title. It impressed me a lot because he got cut in the first round. He didn't panic. He was able to get himself together and win the fight, a very competitive fight. So I really believe that Joshua, who is of Puerto Rican heritage but grew up in Michigan, has a lot of potential to fill that gap. And then look forward to him putting on a great performance in a competitive fight on October 18th.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's one of the fights where somebody has to go. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. And just the story of Dmitry Salita. This starts in Ukraine. You left for New York aged 9. What memories do you have of childhood in Ukraine?
Before we get there, you touched on something very important. Somebody's always got to go. So, we're in a transitional period in the boxing space where HBO and Showtime are no longer around, and they have birthed some of the best development platforms of places that develop stars and future talent. And Canelo Alvarez, is one such example that's still around. So I feel that talent development and producing the next star is something that's very important and something that's been a little bit neglected in the current boxing environment. And somebody's always got to go. Used to be Gordon Hall's favorite saying, who was the former VP of Show, and he had the incredible Showbox platform that developed a lot of champions, a lot of contenders. This Big Time Boxing USA series this year is a combination of Showbox and Tuesday Night Fights, where you have some competitive fights where somebody's always got to go, and also you see some fighters that are still early in their career or different stages of their career, building themselves back up, building their stories, fighting in different neighborhoods, different cities, becoming hometown stars. And that's kind of the goal in Puerto Rico, and has been the goal here with the shows that we've done in Detroit and Michigan this year. But I believe that there is a necessity and a need for it, for the boxing fans and for the fighters, to have this talent development platform. And we keep perfecting it. We're just very early in our stages in terms of telling stories, promoting our fighters, and really cross-branding this initiative to be able to give boxing fans and the fighters we represent the most visibility and the best storytelling that there is, really.
With this modern era that we're in, where fighters, even at the elite level, might only fight once, if not twice a year, we also see sometimes even prospects only fighting 4 times when they might have been fighting 6, 7, 8 times in previous years. It just seems like it's more important now than ever to have these sort of fights where somebody's has to go. Because, like you say, with talent development, when the fighters are fighting less, they need to be thrown maybe into these fights so that they're better prepared, as and when the biggest stage comes calling, right?
Well, I feel that fighters, everyone is an individual and everybody's different. But I do think that it's important for fighters to test themselves, and boxing is a very hard way to make a living, and you really have to be the best. So when fighters are willing to challenge themselves and to fight the best, that shows you that they have all the ingredients and the right tools inside their soul, inside their heart to be the best. And Josh Pagan has shown that continuously throughout his career, and he's taken a big step up, fighting as the main event in Puerto Rico against a fellow undefeated fighter who's also coming to win. So it's an important big step for Josh Pagan, and generally speaking, yes, I do believe that there's a method to the madness of developing a fighter, and it's very important. And the best to ever do it consistently has been Top Rank, and I think in the best era was when I was with them in the early 2000s, when they developed Mayweather and De La Hoya and Miguel Cotto and Kelly Pavlik and so many other champions. So they've really had a great system. And as a young fighter, I really was always peeking kind of behind the door and seeing what's going on, asking a lot of questions. And from that experience, I believe that I would like to take some of that that I've learned and attach and apply to what we're doing.
You're going back to, being born in Ukraine and coming over to New York age 9. What childhood memories did you have back in your homeland?
Back in my homeland, we had a cat and we had a dog, and I remember doing karate, it was a different lifestyle. I'm from the Soviet Union, so then after we left, the Berlin Wall came down and it became Ukraine. But I was really part of the Soviet Union, so. When you go to school in first grade, there's a process of, indoctrination, for lack of a better term, where you kind of climb up the ranks of the Communist Party, starting at school. And it was only 9 years old, but it was a great experience for me, being able to see life through a different lens than we see in the United States, and gave me the drive and the chip on my shoulder, to survive Brooklyn, New York, and to box and to try to be the best.
With them, I moved to America 3 years ago, but there was no language barrier for me. Were there any difficulties going from Ukraine to America for you?
There are many difficulties. First of all, we were on welfare and food stamps, and my family didn't have any money. So going to public school, wearing Payless shoes, not speaking English, not knowing what pizza is and what hip-hop music is and all the different stuff, it takes time to acclimate to that and to find out, who are the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which were big back then, and the Power Rangers and all that stuff. So then I joined Star City Boxing Club at the age of 13, which was a melting pot of New York City, and I believe that really gave me a lot of confidence, educated me in a very unique way, and made me appreciate hip-hop music. And also John Scully, who's a trainer.
Yeah.
We used to travel a lot when I was an amateur, 13 years old. And I used to, but before fights, I used to listen to my headphones and rap. So he gave me the nickname, the Russian rapper. So in Star City Boxing, I also learned how to rap, amongst many other things.
Yeah, the Russian rapper and the Iceman. Well, who are your favorite rappers? Do you think rap was better in the 90s or in the modern era?
Everybody says back when I was young, so, but certainly, Biggie and Tupac were legends. But I really don't know who sings the song. I just like the rhythm. So I remember being in a gym and sparring and being tired and maybe, going through a tough sparring session, and then the right song comes on, and it's just like, it gives you your second wind, it revives you, it gives you inspiration. So that's what hip-hop music was to me. Danny Jacobs, Edgar Berlanga, Louis Collazo, Shannon Briggs, Monty Barrett, Zab Judah, so many fighters that Saddam Ali, Shushu, Bruce Codrington, all from Star City Boxing Club. Really a hotbed of talent, and that some of those guys are still around today.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, 𝐶𝐶 is one of these guys that's rising. He's on a rapid rise, I think, to the top. That guy, top tier prospect in the making. What if you were taken up, or if you were doing karate in what is now Ukraine? What made you do boxing in New York? Was it just more prevalent in New York?
No, actually, I first joined a karate club, and I wanted to compete, but in karate, competition is limited, and the way to being a champion is limited. And I really don't know why I boxed, but I think that probably because of poverty and because of challenges of immigration, not really fitting in, and boxing, was a way for me to, as a kid, I saw it as a way for me to make it out of my ghetto, to make it out of my challenges. And being in the gym, I connected with a lot of the kids that came from Brownsville, from East New York, even though we were from different communities, but we had the same goal of using boxing as a tool to make a better life for ourselves. So, I remember going to the Silver Gloves in Rochester, 13 years old, and after the fight, getting a free t-shirt, or going to like an all-you-can-eat place. It was like incredible. So, and we all, the whole, 20 kids, we all shared in that experience. So I think that the challenge of immigration fueled my fire and my desire to want to be the best in the ring, and to be able to deal with the discomforts of what boxing can bring.
It's like tough times breed tough people. Do you think that's kind of the key to why we're seeing so many top-tier Ukraine fighters at the moment, with Gvozdyk, Borinchik, Boychuk, Lomachenko, Usyk? Spoken to a few of those guys, and there's great camaraderie amongst them, but they do kind of point to, how tough it is in Ukraine. Do you think that's why we're seeing such, we've gone from, yourself, the ી𝐾𝐫𝐶 brothers, and now there's, more than a handful of fighters coming out of Ukraine that are kind of dominating their respective weight classes?
Yeah, so Ukraine, Russia, Uzbekistan, the former Soviet Union, has a very rich school of boxing. And I believe that, certainly those areas have gone through many different challenges, not just recently, but for a long time. And I do believe that as a result of challenges, people gravitate towards boxing and use it as a place to kind of use that energy towards something productive. Look, Uzbekistan won 6 Olympic gold medals.
Yeah,
incredible, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the United States, unfortunately, didn't win one gold medal, which really saddens me as a boxing fan, as someone that grew up in the United States and grew up in the amateur boxing program. And one of the things that I got to tell you, as a boxing purist, and Andre Ward commented on this a couple of weeks ago, amateur boxing in the United States is not what it used to be, and it's a ripple down effect, because there has to be a romanticism about boxing. And back when I was a young kid, at 13, 14, 15, 16 years old, I would rush home to watch the fights on HBO and on Showtime, and the storytelling and the music, and it really captivated you. So I really believe that people in the boxing community in the United States have to come together and figure out a way to rejuvenate amateur boxing. When I won the Golden Gloves, it was sponsored by the Daily News, which is the biggest amateur boxing tournament by number, they say, in the world. The New York Daily News, every time you fight, the New York Daily News would write about it. It was on Fox News, and the fans were in Madison Square Garden. So the whole city was behind that tournament. And that's not around anymore. So steps need to be taken to rejuvenate boxing in the United States, which is the capital of the sport.
And I'd love to know more about your relationship with Javon Hill. When did that relationship begin? Was it the hookup through Emanuel Stewart? And what do you make of him and his successes now? Did you always kind of see him as one of the top tier trainers, who could, implement a game plan that would win on the biggest stages?
So after I lost to Amir Khan, Jimmy O'Farrell, who was my longtime trainer, mentor, called Emanuel Stewart and said, with Dmitry, he's coming to see you. He needs your help. So I flew out to Detroit, trained with Emanuel for a couple of weeks. Then one day Emanuel came to the gym. He said, Dmitry, I have to go with training camp. I think it was with Klitschko. He was Sugar Hill. He does the same stuff I do. So train with him until I get back. And that was 2010. So that's how we kind of met. That's how the training together. And Sugar really did most of the work for Manuel's fighters in the gym. And that Tyson Fury came in 2010, 11. We became friends. And, he was only like 8, 9, 10-0, something like that. So I've had fighters that we promote, like Vladimir Shishkin, Shukhan Gashev. Others come from different places in the former Soviet Union, moved to Detroit, to Michigan to train with Sugar. So I believed in Sugar for a long time, and I believe he's one of the best boxing minds in the sport. And after when Sugar got hired as Tyson's trainer before the rematch with Deontay Wilder, people asked me, what do you think about the rematch? And I said, without Sugar 50-50, with Sugar Hill, he's going to dominate. So, I believe in Sugar's boxing IQ. He grew up around boxing, grew up around big-time boxing, because he's a little kid, around one of the greatest trainers in the sport. When he bleeds boxing. So, I believe he's a great trainer and a great addition to the sport. I love the way he handles himself, and he's just a heavyweight champion of the world as a trainer.
That's for sure. And I think, being in the gym, and you've been around, Vladimir Klitschko, Tyson Fury, you just mentioned. Is that when I think of you, I do think of the heavyweights. You've got Jarrell Miller, Jermaine Franklin. I think once you had Otto Wallin as well. How did you start to, build these relationships with heavyweights, and the fascination of, bringing heavyweights into your roster?
So Jarrell's the first fighter I signed, actually. And then I had my eye on Jermaine Franklin, who has some fights but was relatively unknown, and same thing with Otto Wallin. So I believe that heavyweights, first of all, I love heavyweight boxing, and from a promoter's point of view, having a good heavyweight gives you the ability to progress much faster and smoother. Even though the road with Jarrell has been very bumpy, but it's been good in many ways, and have been a lot of learning experiences at the highest level. Fight with Anthony Joshua, it didn't happen, but we went through the exercise of what it would be like. Otto Wallin fighting Tyson Fury, being able to, when the fight with Anthony Joshua and Jarrell fell through, just signed Otto for about 6 months, and it was obviously a very challenging time, but I heard that Tyson Fury was looking for an opponent, and I called Bob Arum, and he was in between different opponents, and yada yada yada, made the fight with Otto Wallin, which was our main event on ESPN. And till this day, outside of Alexander Usyk, Otto gained the toughest fight of his career. So and then positioned Otto to fight Anthony Joshua. So I feel very grateful for what we've been able to accomplish with him. Jermaine Franklin for Dillian White, a fight that I feel that he won, that he fought Anthony Joshua. I feel very grateful for being able to navigate these heavyweights to the biggest fights in the sport. Looking for the next Mike Tyson.
Considering what Andy Ruiz went on to do to Anthony Joshua, do you feel like Jarrell Miller would have, because he's got fast hands as well, maybe it would have been a similar outcome had Jarrell fought Joshua that night in New York? I think it was in 2019. Do you feel like he would have got the win in as spectacular fashion as Andy Ruiz went on to do? It
was June 1st, 2019. It's a day that's forever ingrained in my mind. So one of the things that I was saying in the lead-up press conference is that Anthony Joshua has fought his whole career in the UK up to that point, and he's never been away from home. Being in New York City, thousands of miles away from home, with a guy like Jarrell Miller, who's in your face, very aggressive, strong, big guy, Anthony Joshua, in my mind, would have second doubts in the locker room, because, when you're fighting or in your surroundings, in your safety zone, you know that after the fight, you're going to go to your local pub, you're going to go to your friend's house, and it gives you a safe mindset. And when you're in a locker room and you know that you have to get in a plane and fly over the ocean, you're thousands of miles away from home, in that very intense atmosphere, I believe that it was going to mess with Anthony Joshua's mind, and it did. But Andy Ruiz is the one that benefited from that. Yeah, I feel that Jarrell definitely had the ability to be the heavyweight champ of the world, but it wasn't meant to be, and it is what it is.
There's some footage that I think Sky Sports filmed that never aired that I really wanted to see, and apparently it was a freestyle kind of rap battle between Jarrell Miller and Anthony Joshua, and it seemed like Jarrell Miller kind of might have toyed with him. I did ask Jarrell about it and he said he'd made him piss his pants, but I don't think that was, we can take that literally. Were you in the room when this was being filmed? Do you know anything that I'm talking about?
No, I was not in the room.
Did you hear what happened or anything?
No, I know Jarrell is a very good improviser and he got the gift of gab.
Yeah.
So if I have to put it better on, I'm sure he out-raps Anthony Joshua.
Yeah. I think that I still want to see that footage. Just why I kind of would have liked to have seen that fight still happen. I did speak to Eddie Hearn over the years since then, and he always wanted to make it, even after all the failed drug tests, saying it would still have been a monster fight to go back to New York and to exercise that loss potentially against Jarrell Miller. But yeah, maybe one day that footage will see the light of day. Yeah,
no, I think that it's always a big fight, and certainly Jarrell showed himself to be on the heavyweight level. I really feel that even though it was a draw, he beat Andy Ruiz. And he's back on top. Certainly, with his personality and his gift of gab, he makes every fight interesting, and he proved that he got the skills to hang with the best.
I remember you mentioned Vladimir 𝐀𝐮𝐭, earlier in the show. I remember writing about him, I think it was when I was at Business Insider, it must have been 4 or 5 years ago. And even then, I think you and he were talking about Canelo. Do you feel like you're closing the gap on this fight now? Because, Canelo just went the distance with Berlanga. Outside of David Benavidez, I'm not really sure who there is, that jumps out really for Canelo to fight. Is that still a fight that interests you guys? How close do you think you are from getting that one?
Well, the first and most important step is for Vladimir to beat William Skull on October 19th for the IBF title. I believe that Vladimir is the better fighter than William Skull. And from what I see with Canelo, who's obviously an all-time great, Mother Time is catching up to him.
Yeah.
And he's not as dominant as he used to be. He's still a very good fighter. But I believe that Vladimir has a lot of similarities to Bivol. And I think that it's a fight that would interest fans, obviously depending how he looks against Skull. But yes, we're inching closer to it, and very good of you to remember that I've been speaking about this for a long time. Vladimir is really a blue chip fighter. He was progressing nicely. Then the war happened, and it affected the fact that he's from Russia, even though he's been living here for a long time. It affected him, challenging to put him on television. But he finally got his opportunity to fight with Scotty D for the IBF number 2 position, and he waited. And I'm grateful that the IBF lives up to its rules and mandated for this fight to happen. And I do, like as you said, there's not a lot of options for Canelo. So I believe that the winner of the Skull-𝐀𝐮𝐭 fight certainly, and particularly if it's 𝐀𝐻𝐭, makes a lot of sense.
And you're a big supporter and advocate of Claressa Shields. I know you kind of call her the GOAT. She calls herself the GOAT. There's one thing I think Katie Taylor has that Claressa doesn't have, which is like the real marquee win. Katie Taylor's got one over Amanda Serrano. Who do you think Claressa could fight that?
I strongly, respectfully disagree with you. In the strongest sense, with all due respect. Claressa Shields, Katie Taylor, I'm a fan of Katie Taylor. She's wonderful. I like her.
Yeah.
But she's miles away from Claressa Shields. And I obviously, I noticed your British accent, so you maybe just a little bit impartial, but it's okay. Claressa is the first woman ever in the United States to be the main event on cable network television, which was on Showtime in 2017. It was before any woman has fought on TV. And after that, Cecilia Brækhus and Katie Taylor and others have fought on television. So Claressa has fought in the first biggest women's fight of all time, which was against Christina Hammer, who at that time was the unified middleweight champion. And it was a fight on Saturday night, another first one for women. And there was a in-camp, like a in-camp lead-up, meaning that every weekend there was a lead-up to that fight. Also something that was never done for women. It was on Showtime, which obviously had a big megaphone, big way to deliver the message. So that was Clarissa's first super fight. It was in 2019. Then Clarissa fought Savannah Marshall in the UK. In the UK, the most, on Sky, the highest watched women's sporting event of all time, according to Sky. So when you phrase your question, you said, is there a rival for Clarissa to fight? But Clarissa has done it. And Amanda Serrano, again, wonderful fighter. I like her. She's great. Not even close to Clarissa Shields. I mean, with all due respect, and I don't mean this in any demeaning way. Just Clarissa is a two-time Olympic gold medalist. Look at all the champions and all the mandatory contenders that she beat in her fights, and all the titles that she has captured, and the Olympic gold medals that she's won, and the world championships and the nationals, and all the stuff. And some people get upset about the fact that Clarissa is outspoken. But if Clarissa would not be outspoken, then women's boxing would not be where it's at. It takes a leader, it takes a mover and a shaker to be able to progress the sport. And change and equality doesn't come from being quiet and submissive. It comes from speaking out. And that's what Clarissa has been doing. And, if you notice it, she's competitive if she fights, with whoever she's fighting, and she talks trash to promote the fight. But she uplifts women. She uplifts women's boxing. She uplifts other champions. She's not competing with them because she is understanding of her position in the sport and what she's doing for driving the sport of boxing and women's empowerment and equality all throughout the world through her incredible talent of boxing. Another first for Clarissa, The Fire Inside, a motion picture, a biopic coming out about her December 25th. I saw the trailer. It looks absolutely incredible. And the term GOAT only exists because Clarissa Shields introduced it to the world of boxing. And the fact that there's competition, that people say, oh, it's Katie Taylor, it's Amanda Serrano, it's Jane Doe, it's Cindy, it's this one, it's that one. That is great for the sport. And Clarissa birthed it. Clarissa introduced it. And if Clarissa stops today and does nothing more, she is absolutely the GOAT. It's not a discussion. And this is not, again, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, this is not nothing against any other champion. Like Muhammad Ali is the GOAT, right? Joe Louis and Vladimir Klitschko and Mike Tyson and Evander Holyfield, they're incredible fighters in their own right. But Muhammad Ali is the GOAT and Clarissa Shields is the GOAT.
With what's left for Clarissa Shields to accomplish? Because she recently was weighing in at, I think, almost 170, so it's the women's heavyweight division. Katie Taylor's got the rematch with Amanda Serrano. Should she win that? I know Alicia Baumgartner wants to, take her on. Again, that's another kind of big fight field for Katie, and if she keeps on winning, then that puts more punctuation marks maybe on her argument for the GOAT. What do you think is left for Clarissa to accomplish, whether that's in boxing? I know she's dabbled in PFL MMA. How can she continue to add to her legacy, do you think?
So for Clarissa, at this point, I believe it's location that's important. And for her to fight in the Middle East and to fight in Africa would transcend the sports world. It'll be one of the most powerful things to happen and transcend boxing and just be so powerful. So that's what the two things that are left for her to do. For the movie to come out on December 25th, to win a Grammy, and to fight in the Middle East and in Africa. I really believe that that will be memorable for a lifetime.
We've heard like a few, Anthony Joshua, I think, was kind of floating the idea of fighting in Africa. I think kind of Nigeria would have made sense, but I'm not sure I think from a promotional point of view, I'm not sure they might not have had the infrastructure to support it. UFC has talked about Africa, but at one point they had 3 African champions and they didn't go there. Where is there anywhere in particular you think Africa might make sense for Clarissa?
There's different developing places in Africa. We've had some conversations. I feel like the government would have to come in and kind of sponsor this event and help organize it. Kind of like with Ali and George Foreman, the Rumble in the Jungle in Zaire. I really believe that in the next 10 years, Africa is going to be one of the hottest continents in the world in terms of business and progress. I really believe there's a lot of potential. So it's a project, certainly, but I feel that it's something that would make the world stop for 10 2-minute rounds, maybe 12. Maybe by that time it'll be 12 2-minute rounds for roughly an hour, and pay attention to women's boxing.
Dmitry, I really appreciate you joining me. Is there anything else you think readers or listeners should know about, anything you've got coming up? Or, it seems like, you've got the big time boxing in Puerto Rico. This would be great as well. If Clarissa was going to have a fight in Africa, I think that would transcend. What would you like to finish on?
I'm grateful for this interview, and urge boxing fans to check out Big Time Boxing USA. Not only the one that's coming up on October 18th, but also all of our previous events that showcase some of the best talent in the sport of boxing. And looking forward to great rest of the year and to a great 2025.
Amen. I agree with that. That's a great place to wrap. I want to thank you, Dmitry, for joining me. This was Combat X, Dmitry Salita.